Okay, today my guest is Professor Grazia Santangelo. I'll keep my introduction short to maximize our time with her. In the next 30 minutes or so, we'll talk about Grazia as a person. Professor Santangelo is a thought leader and esteemed scholar, and finally is a mentor to many PhD students and junior faculty. For the sake of time, I'll skip many of her accomplishments and give you a very brief, quick snapshot. Professor Santangelo is a fellow of the European International Business Academy and elected member of the executive board of the AOM, International Management Division. Her research has been published in leading academic journals and has been recognized by a number of international awards. She is a reviewing editor of JIBS and a member of the editorial review board of AMR. She also served as an associate editor of Journal of International Management and Industry and Innovation. She's the division program chair for AOM 2022. She served as chair of the research committee of the AOM IM division, representative at large of the Global Strategy Interest Group of the SMS, and was a former EIBA president. Thank you, Grazia, for joining us.
Thank you.
Let's start with your background. What did you want to become when you were a child?
I wanted to be a journalist. I always been like writing, and I was fascinating about the idea to research about things that are around me. I was interested in investigative journalism, so the kind of journalism where you search about a topic, which can be political corruption, corporate wrongdoing, for a month, and then you deliver a piece or a report. And so even if vaguely, I have also always been interested in a research-oriented profession.
Interesting. Where did you grow up?
In Italy.
Okay. And how did you choose academia later on?
It was during my master, which I did in the UK. All my postgraduate study have been done in the UK. And while I was writing my master thesis, I came across an article by John Dunning. And then I decided I wanted to do a PhD, and I wanted to do a PhD at Reading. So eventually I draft my PhD project proposal, and I was accepted. I started working with John Cantwell, and from there, here I am.
Perfect. Something that is not on your CV that people might find interesting.
I don't know whether people might find interesting, but something that I like to do when I have intense period of work is to switch off my brain and bake cakes. So be creative with my hands instead of my brain.
Perfect. If you stop doing what you're doing, what's the second best alternative career path for you?
I don't know. I mean, I've never thought about stop doing what I'm doing because I'm really passionate about my work. But eventually, I would like a work that involves creativity and problem solving. Also, I have an interest in aesthetics. So with the appropriate training, maybe I would like to be an interior design. So be creating with the space, solving problem about space-related issue, and play around with colors and lighting and materials.
Perfect. About regrets, have you got any regrets?
Not many. Maybe as a child, I would have liked to travel more than I did, but I fully catch up as an adult.
What's your biggest failure and what did you learn from it?
I think, I don't know whether I fail or learn a lot. I invest an excessive amount of time in studying piano. And then I find out that about music, what I was interested in was not about performing, but was about listening. And so the lesson I learned was to be selective in my choice.
What are you most passionate about?
Passionate, I like cinema. I'm not an expert, but I like watching a movie, of course, Italian movie, but also British movie, new, old, I don't mind. But if I have spare time, cinema is something that I like.
For you, what's the #1 movie of of all time?
I'm not sure about all time, but I like the Sorrentino movie, the one that got the Oscar. The photography, I think, is incredible.
Okay, let's switch to research. And let's say you're stranded in a village, people, locals don't know anything about you. So how do you explain your research to people who don't read your work regularly? And why is this important?
Yeah, I think I can identify three streams in my research. The first one is about research and development and international knowledge sourcing. So in this regard, what I researched was how companies transfer knowledge within their boundary, where and why they source knowledge across border. What are the challenges in terms, for example, of knowledge leakages and exploitation? And what the gain in terms of diversity and efficiency of knowledge creation. Within this stream, I also look at the role of institutions in terms of national intellectual property right, but also local judicial system. What role do they play in international knowledge sourcing? That is the first stream. On the second stream, I research on the internationalization process of firm. And I outlined there the non-linearity and discontinuity of the process based on evolutionary biology, and how also the institutional context can alter the process. And final stream, which is the most recent one, refers to how firms can handle ethical issues such as corruption, human rights issue, especially labor rights, when they operate across borders. And now they can actually help to solve such issue. Food security is another problem, refugee crisis. So I think all these streams are relevant because they can help us to understand how to sustain the welfare and the well-being of society, which companies, people working in companies are part of.
Thank you. Grazia, what do you think about the omitted areas of research or neglected concepts in IB research that we need to think more of going forward?
Yeah, IB is a multi-level field. So I think at different level that we can identify like avenue and omitted, based on omitted variable. At the individual level, I think there is a lot of scope to develop theoretical argument behind that gender control. I mean, gender is just a control when we talk about individual level research. In other fields, I'm thinking about economics or strategy. There have been theoretical argument why gender matters. And I think in IB, there is scope to invest on these specific variable and all the theory that these may generate. At the more macro level, I think political factor play a role, a critical role. We have seen this in more recent years, and international business scholars have research on this. But what I have in mind are political factors which are unusual that have evolved over time, like, for example, the Chinese vaccine diplomacy in Africa. So there is still some policy, but are not the traditional political factor that we are used to research about. Also legal factor, not just related, for example, to intellectual property right, but other issue connect, for example, to court and how the judicial system work. These, I think, are issues that will help to revitalize research on innovation activity across borders. And in between the individual and the macro level, there is the company. And I think something that will be worth researching is reputation. Reputation has been discussed in international business in connection to CSR activity across border. But I think there is also scope to look at reputation in connection to cross-border investment decision, for example, or reputation other than the one associated to responsible business. Again, reputation on how company litigate in court, for example. I think all these are critical aspects that can influence firm decision and competitiveness in a global world and a worse attention.
About creativity in scholarship and in a state of idle curiosity, what does your mind think of? How do you think? How do you come up with these creative ideas?
I think creativity is about thinking out of the box while maintaining a logical rigor and being able to speak to peers in the field. So it's not an easy task. I require cross-disciplinary boundaries, which means also be curious reading about what's happening in a sister field or in fields that are very much unrelated to what we do.
If a PhD student comes to you in a conference or in your institution asking for some advice on a great dissertation topic, and they are not really passionate about anything at the time, they are still searching, they are trying to figure out what's going to be the next big topic in IB in the next 5 to 10 years. What's a great dissertation topic?
I'm not sure what's going to be the biggest idea. I see, however, some avenues that may be promising in terms of advancing the field. Again, in connection to my interest in ethics across border, for example, I think there is a scope to investigate how multinational can contribute to address pressing challenges and offer solutions to society. There have been different calls in this direction in the broad management field, but also in IB. Also, I think that the diversity of the issues that are at stake and the multidisciplinary nature of IB offers an opportunity to integrate theoretical perspective from other fields to refine and advance the international business research. So I think that will be my guess, like try to advance research by identify how this research can be useful to solve societal issues.
Thank you. Now, from your window, what can you say about evolution of the IB culture over time, from where it was and where it is headed to? What can we say about evolution of the field?
I think that the field has matured over time, and so as IB scholar, we have become more stricter in terms of method that we use, both qualitative and quantitative. I also think that we have been increasingly open to the development in other fields. I'm thinking about what's happening in economic geography, global value chain, or international relations. At the same time, as we're becoming more methodologically rigorous and more aware of what's happening outside, we have been creating our identity as international business scholar. So the bar to integrate idea, a theoretical perspective from other fields into our field, I think it has become higher. So these are how the evolution of IB could be painted.
Okay. Last question in the research segment is which IB questions are overly studied, or maybe we won't get any more new mileage out of some of the topics? Well, what are some of the topics that we have covered enough?
I mean, as I was mentioning, the field has matured, and this means that in connection to some topic that have been widely researched, there is less space for breakthrough contribution. Maybe researching on this topic and still yield a contribution, but probably will not be on a theoretical level. So, for example, we know a lot about the effect of FDI on domestic firm performance, very topical issue back in the 90s. I'm not ruling out the possibility that researching in this on this topic can yield a contribution, but probably it might be challenging to drastically change the solid, deep understanding of the phenomenon that we have. So when researching on this type of topic that had been widely addressed by the IB community, probably what we could have is more to, for example, a methodological contribution.
Okay. About your PhD experience and your advice to young scholars and junior faculty, what was the best advice you received when you were going through the program?
The best advice I received that there is always scope for improvement and learning. There is no such a thing as a comfort zone, and I think is a plus because we have an incredible profession. We start a project with some skills, and by the time we end this project, successfully, unsuccessfully, for sure we have learned something. And so we have a continuous opportunity for improvement and learning. Nothing is perfect, and everything can be improved.
You were very active, or you are very active in Academy of Management, IM division, SMS, global strategy area. And you see a lot of PhD students and junior faculty. What are some of the common mistakes that you see across the board that young colleagues are subject to? Things that they are doing that they shouldn't. What are some of the things that they shouldn't do?
Okay, let's say that there are some common mistakes that young, probably also I have made as when I was more junior in my career, is like the difficulty to move from an intuition to a well-defined research question that is appealing and that can be answered methodologically. I think that might be a mistake to avoid. Second mistake is embarking in a research topic where the space for contribution has been saturated because we have already a stock of knowledge on the topic, and therefore it's difficult to come up with something that is drastically novel. And also something that is difficult, not just when you are a junior scholar, is to be critical toward your own research, like step back and be objective. But that's very important to still keeping this objectivity about your own work, because by challenging your own work, you can improve it. But that's not always easy to do.
Mm-hmm. Now let's just formally, if you were to give advice to young colleagues based on a couple of the things that you said are quite interesting about having intuition but not really contributing or converting them to research, or failing to make contributions in a overly saturated area, and everyone likes their own papers, especially young scholars. They think they cannot be improved further, or let alone be edited. No one wants to edit their work. So 3 top advice from you to young colleagues, or even old colleagues. What's the best 3 advice that you can give?
I mean, relate to this common mistake will be like intuition is very important in our work, but make sure that this intuition actually can be articulated in a research question that is first appealing, so there is a scope to ask the question, and second, that is actually can be answered based on any type of evidence, so it can be qualitative or quantitative, because maybe sometimes there is the risk to ask questions that we cannot appropriately answer. That is where we are challenged by reviewer. So make sure that your intuition does translate into a question that is meaningful and has actually an answer, or you can provide a reasonable answer. And about the second point that I was making, embarking a research topic where there is enough space for contribution is very important, that spending time in actually deciding whether to start the project, which is reading the literature around the topic we want to research, exchange idea with other more senior faculty, but also participating in seminar, sharing your own thought about what would you like to do in order to make sure that actually there is a space for yet another paper on the topic. So knowing the field where you want to walk is very important. Be critical on your own research. I think is something that you learn over time. Maybe you are more in love with the final outcome when you are young, but as you grown up, you become more and more critical, and it's less easy to satisfy yourself first.
Thank you. Grazia, well, what's the question that I should have asked you but haven't?
I think maybe about time management.
Okay, here we go.
I think for me it's very important managing my time effectively, because I don't want to miss out like family time, and it's also important to have the time to recharge the battery so that I can go back to work with a fresh mind. So time is a scarce resource, and I fully appreciate it.
Do you work every day? Do you write every day?
Yes, I try to.
Yeah. This was interesting. Thank you so much, Grazia. I learned a lot. I'm sure the audience will agree with me. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.